Good evening, folks, and welcome to another edition of An Hour with Bob. And I am very pleased to have the guest I have tonight because I've been trying to get him for a long time, but he's always too busy. And you'll understand why when you know who my guest is. And he is the colonel of the Providence Police Department and the chief of Providence Police. His name is Hugh Clements. You probably know of him if you don't know him personally, like I do. How you doing, Hugh?
Good evening. How are you, Bob?
Good.
Pleasure to
good.
be on. Finally.
Finally, I finally
yes.
got you, huh?
You have asked several times, but here I am. Happy holiday season. Merry Christmas.
Exactly. Same to you. Same to you. What are you doing for New Year's?
We keep it light. Well, last year we went to a restaurant down in South County,
Yeah.
Laconda.
Laconda. That's a new one on me. Where's that?
Yeah, it's down in Tower Hill Road in South Kingstown.
Oh, wow.
Great restaurant by my good friend Dino Passeretta. He owns a group of restaurants, and that's only one of my favorites. But
Really?
I give him a shout out because he does a tremendous job in his restaurant group.
It's amazing how many good restaurants there are in Rhode Island. You know, people when I talk to people from other parts of the country, because I've done a lot of traveling, and people say to me, especially the people that knock this state in this area the most are people from this state. But
I agree.
Outsiders, they love it over here. They all come here.
It's a great state.
It is a great state, and you can't beat the weather. You really can't beat the weather. We don't get those giant tornadoes. We don't even get tornadoes, period. We don't get mudslides. We don't get fires. We don't get hardly anything. Every 15 years we get a hurricane. Every 30 years we get a bad hurricane.
The weather's great. The restaurant scene is
You can't beat.
tremendous.
You cannot
I'm
beat.
not sure what I'm doing New Year's Eve.
No?
To be honest, but
Well,
maybe last minute.
We both know that that's amateur night anyway, right?
It is, absolutely.
I kind of stay away from it. In my older years, I realize it.
I'm with you.
That ain't the place to be. You don't want to be out and about in those crazy years, you know. Anyway, how's the city of Providence these days?
The city is great, very festive this time of year. There's
Yep.
a lot of activity. Providence is a very active, vibrant city, the capital city. I think many people from Rhode Island, as being a city-state, enjoy
Yep.
the city this time of year, whether it be the Providence Place Mall, Trinity for a Christmas Carol, P-PAC for they just had Hamilton and other shows. There's so many great events and restaurants and shopping
Yeah.
in the city of Providence, so it's slamming. It really is. The traffic.
You should be the head of the Visitors Bureau over there in Providence.
But it's part of what we do,
Yeah.
is welcoming people into the city, and we're very thankful. And I'm sure you'll get to that in the line of questioning with the recent addition of 49 young new recruits that have entered the workforce of the Providence
Right, that
Police.
just happened, right?
That just
last
happened,
month.
yes. So it just happened probably 8 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so they're in the field training officer platform right now.
Now, how long do they do that? Is that a year? Is that
No,
probation?
10 weeks.
Oh, 10 weeks. I
They
know they're
finish-
all different cities.
They'll finish January 10th. So through the holiday season, they're
That's their
training.
probationary period? Is that what you call it?
No, they're on probation for 1 full year.
Oh, that's what I'm talking
But they're
about,
in
yeah.
a field training officer
Oh, I
program.
get you. Yeah.
Training.
So when they're
Oh.
training, they're always with another
Correct.
officer, right?
And then January 10th, most of the 49 will go off on their own. Some who need some additional training
Sure.
will get that additional training. But the city's great because now we have more officers to be out there welcoming people into the city. We put a large commitment of resources out in front of P-PAC. We helped out down at Trinity.
Right.
We've given a big amount of resources to the Providence Place Mall. As you know, this time of year with school ready to be out, and we have a lot of young kids who hang in the mall,
Yep.
in the food court area. And
Yeah.
they
You had
have
an incident there recently, didn't you? Or a few.
Look, these young
you have
kids.
kids.
Yeah,
they're
you know,
kids.
they're going to see groups from other schools or other towns and cities, and that's always been the way. Where you see somebody from Pawtucket,
West Side Story. Yeah.
or Woonsocket, West Side Story.
Yeah.
So look, it's part of youth. So someone gives someone a dirty look or talks to someone's girlfriend,
Exactly, yeah.
and before you know it, there's a fight. It's going to happen.
Yep.
So yeah, we've had
That's
some
an easy
incident-
way. That's a proper way to to explain that too, by the way, because that's what it is. I
That's
mean,
what it
nobody was
is.
killed in
It's
it,
always
right?
been that way.
It's arguing.
But I think it's important for, look, they have a decent complement of security in the Providence Place Mall, but you need the police there at times,
Right.
and they can only pay for so much, the Providence Place Mall. So with this addition of 49, we've given them some resources in the forms of bodies for the holiday season to welcome everyone to feel safe, to come shopping in the mall. The last thing we want is, I'm not saying there won't be a fight in the mall, but we'll be there. We made a couple of arrests just last weekend, and look, it's important. It's a place where families and people go to shop and, be at peace. We don't need that type of activity there. It's,
Right.
and it won't be tolerated when we're there.
And I also can commend you for the lack of problems during the water fires. I mean, that's thousands and
we
tens
say
of
it all.
thousands of people.
Thank you for saying that, because you know what? When we have large-scale events in the city, there are events in the city with 3,000 people, 10,000
yeah,
people,
10,000 people.
50,000 people.
Yeah, oh yeah.
We have water fires, huge water fires, the Gemma water fire,
That's big.
50,000
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
Or we have events in the city, the Prov Fest, with 25, 30,000 people. In many of those events, most of those events, not a car window broken. Never mind a major incident.
Right.
So, but that's not news.
Exactly,
It's
exactly.
the adage
That's not-
that,
yeah.
when the plane takes off and the plane lands, that's not news. When the plane takes off and
And
there's
crashes,
a crash, there's
that's-
news.
exactly.
So I get it, and this is a very volatile world that we're living in right
Yep,
now.
yep.
And it's important for people to be informed of newsworthy events, so we get that. But by and large, most of the large-scale events in the city with a Providence police presence and coverage go off and on peacefully. And, whatever it is, the 3,000 or 50,000 people enjoy their time in the city and have good things to say about the city.
Well, I say that and knowing, because I've been to almost all the water fires, and I've never really seen any kind of an incident downtown Providence during a water fire. And I walk all around the place.
It's been going on for years. I even forget when water fire started.
I don't remember when it
I
started.
was just with Barnaby the other night. I ran into him at a social event.
I'm guessing it started, didn't it start after 9/11?
Not sure.
I'm not either.
I would say
Two guys are supposed to know or should
Yeah.
know. We don't know, right?
two true Rhode Islanders. I would say before 9/11.
Yeah?
Yes.
So it's been going more than 22 years, 21 years.
There's your next guest, Barnaby.
Barnaby. You know who mentioned that to me too? Joe Rocco mentioned that I should have Barnaby Evans on my
Yes.
show.
Yes.
And I guess I got to jot that down. We got to add Barnaby Evans to our list of guests for future shows. Maybe in 2022. My God.
You believe it?
Not even a month away. Half a month
You
away.
believe it? The years fly by.
2 weeks away, actually. Yeah. That's crazy.
But it's a great time of year and with a lot of activity, and it always excites people and families.
Now, you got any kids?
I do. I have two daughters. They're
How old?
30 and 23.
Oh, yeah, not
So they're
kids.
on
I'm
their
thinking
way.
of kids for Christmas time.
Yeah, my youngest
beyond
is
that.
in New York City now, living in New York City.
Oh, no
and,
kidding.
Yeah, life is good.
How long you been chief?
So I've been chief. So in the middle of 2011, I was named acting chief. In June of 2011, they did a full-blown nationwide search. I went through the process, and I was named officially chief in January of 2012.
So they couldn't find anybody better than you.
I wouldn't go that far.
Well, they didn't.
They didn't on that one. So
Apparently better than the last one. Let's put it that way.
I'm still friendly with him. He
Yeah.
did some phenomenal things
Yeah,
in the
he did.
city, and
He
him
did.
and I are still friendly.
Yeah.
But coming up on 10 years, and it's a long time, and I still love the city. I still love the job. I have passion and compassion for the community, but I really appreciate the work of the men and women of the Providence Police Department. School after school, they never cease to disappoint me. They amaze me for their reasons for coming on the job and their passion
Right,
for the
right.
work in the community. And look, city policing is different, and
Especially now. My
nowadays,
God.
the last year and a half, it's a different time.
It's been difficult. I'll bet. How is it recruiting?
Recruiting is gotten tougher. So in the Northeast of the United States,
Right.
we never had trouble recruiting. Since my time entering the workforce of the Providence Police,
Which is when? When did you start?
1985.
Wow.
I went through the academy and came on the 49th Providence Police Academy and came on the ranks of the Providence Police. And we used to have between 2,000 and 2,500 applicants for the police department, the academy.
For how many openings at the time?
It
40,
depends.
30, 40?
Yeah, my school's 37.
Right.
We've had larger schools lately because we're down through attrition. We went pretty far down in our workforce, so the last 4 schools have been over 50, or around 50. This
Right.
recent school was 49. So, but our recent schools have been 55, 53, 50, and 49.
Yep.
But so on recruiting, in the last couple of years, for the first time, it started to touch this section of the country. For years, in the Southwest and down South, they had a hard time recruiting. For the first time, the last academy process, we had 999, 1,000 applicants.
Right.
This time, we'll probably have even lower. So we're actively recruiting again for the next Providence Police Academy.
Which is when?
We don't know when it will begin. Hopefully, right after the beginning of the new fiscal year. But we have a very aggressive timeline. But most important, we'll need the proper number or a good pool of candidates to draw from. So for any of those young men and women in the community that want to join.
Any requirements?
Yeah, high school diploma,
Right.
United States citizen. You do not have to live in the city, but it's.
There's always an argument about that, especially cops and firemen. There was always,
there
always
was
a discussion about that.
residency requirement when I first came on the job, but that has been lifted for constitutional reasons. But there are extra points given to Providence residents.
Oh, yeah?
10 extra points at the end of all the testing.
Right.
It's a very rigid testing process, 7 phases with a written, an oral.
And physical.
A physical agility test. And so it gets weeded down pretty quickly. But it's a rigid process. It's only for those who truly want to venture into this field.
Right.
And in city policing, we normally get those young men and women that's what they want. That's exactly what they want.
Yep.
So even though we only had 1,000 last time, we picked 49 outstanding candidates. We're very proud of this latest group.
Well, that's good now.
Are you thinking of?
Yeah, I'm thinking about signing up. Oh, my God. I had my neighbor, thinking about my neighbor. One of my neighbors always wants to be a
please.
cop. Yeah.
Tell them.
Yeah. What's the starting wage for a police officer in Providence?
So recently, the Providence Police, thankfully, and I was part of the negotiation process, they were given some pretty good wage increases, salary increases. I don't know the exact number, but it's upwards of over $60,000.
Really?
Yes, and but there are opportunities when you first come on the job.
Sure.
Between
Details,
overtime,
too?
callback, details, court time.
Yeah.
You can easily make $80,000
$80,000 or $100,000.
And
Where the hell they go to make that kind of money, especially if they don't have a college degree?
That's right. And you know what? There aren't many professions in the world where you have an opportunity to make the impact you do as a sworn officer,
Right.
especially in a city, a capital city. It's a rewarding job. There aren't many types of work that you can do where you can drive home and really feel good about what you did that day, and a particular call for service you had, or just, you approach someone and help someone out who is in need. And that's most of what we do. People think that, we'll sit there and just listen to the radio and respond to a call. That's not true. I mean, the work we do now, much of the work we do is that there's a lot of social service type work.
Community activism.
Yes, community-oriented policing
Right.
is our platform, our model. It has been for a long time. We've cut our arrests in half over the last 20 years. We used to make well over 14,000 arrests a year. We make under 7,000 arrests a year.
Wow, you cut it in half, huh?
Cut it in half. I mean, there's a lot of programs that we do where, police shouldn't have been putting those individuals in the criminal justice system because
Of a minor infraction.
a minor infraction, it didn't move the dial on making the quality of life in that community better or the circumstances for that individual any better. A lot of what we deal with is driven by addiction, chronic addiction of
Yes.
alcohol,
Right,
drugs, mental illness. So there have been many of the partners that we have in the community. The work we do is very complicated. And we have so many law enforcement partners, the municipalities that serve on the side of Providence, the Rhode Island State Police,
Right.
our federal partners, DEA, ATF, FBI. The Providence Police have members of the rank and file sworn to each of those organizations. We have someone assigned to the FBI, to
Right.
DEA. We work very closely.
Homeland Security.
No, we don't have anyone
No?
assigned to a Homeland Security, but we have a Homeland Security unit within the
Oh,
Providence
okay,
Police
all right, yeah.
Department.
Yep.
But as well as our law enforcement partners, we have so many community partners. So I serve on several boards in the city and the state of Rhode Island, and members, rank and file of the Providence Police, we serve on over 50 boards.
Wow.
And I think that's important to become connected, almost enmeshed in the community that we serve.
Right.
And, some of the bigger boards I serve on are the Nonviolence Institute, LISC, the local initiative for housing opportunities with a good friend of mine, the executive director, Jeannie Cola. We do so much around building communities. And that's
You mean
homes.
within the city,
Within the city, yes, and revamping communities with housing, with opportunity. And so LISC, the Nonviolence Institute, Providence, the Providence After School Alliance, Family Services Rhode Island, the Providence Center. We do so much with the Providence Center and Family Services Rhode Island. We were one of the first, not only statewide, but regionally, to have clinicians become part of the police culture. And there was a lot of cross-training, so they began to ride with the police.
Right.
So through grant opportunities and through funding, we were able to put on our team these clinicians who stand roll call, they carry a police radio, and they ride. Not around the clock. We could use more. We could expand.
Right.
We're looking to expand in 2022 on some of these programs. But by having trained clinicians, we're able to divert many of these situations and many of these men and women away from the criminal justice system
Right.
into programs they need. Whether
Well, that's something they've been screaming for only for the last couple of years, but you've been doing it a lot
we've
longer
been
than that.
doing it. Family Services Rhode Island, 18 years.
Really?
Providence Center since 2011. Those clinicians, things they call for around the country after George Floyd,
Right.
we had been doing one of the organizations 18 years, the other one since 2011. Now, have we called for, and is there a movement for expansion? Absolutely. We need more clinicians and an expansion of their work and their role, the scope of the work they can do in the community. Absolutely. And leave the real police work, if you will, to the men and women of the Providence Police Department.
Right.
Because, you talk about the challenges that we have in the capital city. It's A to Z. It's, it's gun crime.
Yep.
It's violent crime. It's quality of life issues. There are 25 identified neighborhoods in the city of Providence.
I was going to say that. I was going to ask you that.
25. And those neighborhoods for a century haven't changed. Summit, On the east side is still Summit, in
Right.
Oneyville, Hartford, Silver Lake, Smith Hill, Federal Hill, downtown.
Mount Pleasant.
Elmhurst, Elmwood,
Elmwood. On your,
right? West End. It's just these neighborhoods, and when we split up and re-engineered the Providence Police Department, we decentralized the police department into 9 districts.
Oh,
And
really?
we never broke up any of those 25 neighborhoods. And many of those neighborhoods have similar needs, but they're all different in different ways.
Right.
And it's, it's a tale of 2 cities or a tale of 25 different
Right,
cities.
yeah,
And we have district commanders who are mini police chiefs, almost like precinct commanders in the NYPD.
Right, yep.
They're the police chief in their neighborhood, and they're held responsible and accountable
I bet you most people don't know that.
for activity in their neighborhood. And, so it's really layered what we do. And, we're a data-driven organization. So almost daily, we're looking at data, crime numbers, but not only crime numbers, but other activity with our social service partners. And once a week, before COVID, things have changed since COVID, but we would meet as a command staff. We're still doing it in a different fashion, but we're a data-driven organization, and each week we look at the 9 districts and the crime in their districts.
Right.
And we strategize around our data. So if we're seeing an increase in larcenies from the motor vehicles, we're trying to, in a granular way, drill down and say, okay, are there any trends or patterns? So we're getting a lot of breaking into vehicles. Are they downtown? Are
Right.
they off of Cranston Street somewhere? Are they in a high school area? And then we dedicate manpower and monetary overtime resources to hit that problem. So, that's true community policing. We would go to community meetings all the time before COVID with the district commanders and the officers, and it's important to listen to the community. Go to a community meeting and there's 35, 50 people there. And we would have a scribe take notes.
Right.
What are the problems in the community? And oftentimes they're similar, but they may be unique to that particular neighborhood. And if the problems are speeding on these 4 or 5 streets, or people just blowing through red lights, or if they're corner groups of young kids hanging out, or larcenies from the auto, or violence, then we would direct resources
To that area.
to that area for those problems.
Right.
Because we find in really making a dent in making quality of life better in neighborhoods and the community safer is random patrol. When you see police cars and you think they're just riding around, at random patrol, and there have been studies on this, yield random results. Directed patrols
Right.
yield direct results. So when you're looking at data and you're looking at what the real problems are, and then you direct resources towards that,
Right.
like I mentioned the mall. We've put a good commitment of resources up in the mall, and we know that we've mitigated and minimized some of the issues that could have been occurring. Will we eliminate all of them? No. I mean, there'll always be a need. There'll always be job security for law enforcement because...
Well, unless you listen to some of these people, I won't even categorize them, that defund the police.
Yeah, that was a flawed discussion. I mean,
Yeah,
there'll always be a need for policing.
Oh, they're finding it. They're finding it. The backlash on them.
You know, by and large, the community, they appreciate their, I know in the city, I hear it all the time. The perception of the Providence Police, by and large, I hear it all the time. Last night, we had a Christmas party for the command staff, and several people approached and really appreciate the work of the Providence Police Department in the community. And we're thankful for that, not that we need that
Right.
validation, but it's the work we do in the community is important. For any community to be vibrant and a strong and a good community, you need safety and security. If people
Well, that's
first,
paramount. That's
it's paramount. If people don't feel safe and secure,
right.
then people won't come to Providence. They won't come to PPAC. They won't come to the mall. I did a foot post last week on the weekend.
A what?
A foot post, a foot patrol.
Oh, okay.
With the new major I've assigned to the uniform division of the Providence Police,
Right.
Major Henry Remolina.
Wait, that's not the major that the mayor wanted, is it?
Different assignment. So Major Remolina and I did a foot post in the mall, and it was busy. The Providence Place Mall is slamming busy. And so people are coming, but they want to see the police.
Oh, yeah, it's comforting. The only people that don't want to see the police are the criminals. Or the speeders.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, look, it's important the work we do in the community, but as well, it's important that we listen to the voices in the community. And I fully believe that, your police department should be held accountable. And we do important work in the community. And to police whatever your community is, in this case, Providence, your community in a compassionate way, a professional way, a transparent way, and to be held accountable for the community that you serve. And with the type of work we do, we deal with human interactions all the time. There will be questions about the type of work we do, and it's important for us to look at that and get better at the type of work we do. But we do some real amazing work. I could throw stats at you all day long, but at times there is gang and gun activity, and in the middle of 20 into the year 2021, cities around the country saw violent crime uptick, including Providence. We saw it here. And from 2011, this command staff I'll speak about, and even before that, we had started to drill down violent crime to incredibly low numbers. But we used to have
in this past year,
it went up. But we used to have shootings to the tune of, that's actual shootings. People shot with a bullet, 150, 160 a year. And we had, from 2011, continued to descend down to 110, 100, the low 90s, the 80s, the 60s. In 2019, we went to 35. We used to have 160. We went to 35.
Was that 2010 was the peak year, wasn't it?
No, the early 90s.
The really?
Crack epidemic. The early 90s were the peak years in cities around the country. And always intriguing to me how smaller cities, mid-sized cities like Providence, follow national trends. And in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, the trend in Providence followed all those national trends with the crack epidemic. And then in the middle of 2020 into 21, Providence numbers replicated what is going on around the country. Where violent crime and gun crime, we had an uptick around the country. Bigger cities, mid-sized city, just about, not every one of them, but just about every city in the country saw that uptick. And what we've seen in Providence, and look, when I talk about some of the amazing work we've done, so we normally make arrests for illegally possessing a firearm, usually around 110 to 140 on average a year. So this past year, 2021, we're at 180 arrests. So I believe we've set a record. That's 180.
That's not a good record.
That's not a good record. There are so many firearms out in these communities, and we've seen it here. That's not a good record, but it's a good thing that we're seizing. Of those 180 individuals arrested illegally possessing a firearm, sometimes there's more than one gun in the car, and we have 198 firearms seized just in those arrests. We have far more guns taken off the street that are just, an article found. So there's well over 200 guns taken off the street this year. There's no way to empirically say how much violence we've stopped by taking those guns off the street, but without question, We've saved.
It has an effect, obviously.
It has an effect.
Obviously, it has an
We've
effect.
saved non-fatal injuries, if not fatal injuries, by taking all those guns off the street. So that's tremendous work. And, you want to talk about police shootings, and, look, we do dangerous work in this community.
Right.
We picked up over 1,300 shell casings in the city of Providence this year.
1,300 shell cases.
13, that's a lot of firepower.
Sure is.
Not one came from the gun of a Providence police.
Really?
So, and if you look in the last several years, last year, not one. So that could change, depending on the circumstance. We've had police shootings. In the course of my career, we've had several Providence police officers shot. Unfortunately, in our era of policing,
Right.
we've had 4 Providence police officers killed in a line of duty. This is a dangerous vocation.
Sure is.
It's dangerous
Yeah.
work that we do. And you think about all those guns we've taken off the street and the environment of that type of gunplay in the
Right.
community.
Those are less, that's 190 or 180 less guns that
Less
are
guns.
in play.
And not a shot fired by the Providence police. And those aren't easy arrests. Maybe some of the time when you catch an individual with a firearm, maybe it's an easy arrest.
Right.
But
Nowadays, I don't think
there's
it's
a lot
ever
of
an
foot
easy
chases.
arrest. Yeah, of course.
And
A
there's a
car
lot of
chases.
fighting.
Yep.
Oh, we probably had a good, at least, half dozen scenarios where Providence police could have fired this year and didn't. And I say not only the training, we have outstanding training by the
I was going to get into that
firearms
because
team, but as well, it's the experience. It is the experience.
and your department is the only department that has its own police academy, right? Do you still have your own police academy?
We do. So there are 3 police academies in the state of Rhode Island.
Right.
So the
state
Rhode Island
police
State Police have their own academy. The Providence Police have their own academy.
and the rest of the state.
And the Rhode Island Municipal Police Academy trains everybody else. But we're all 3 agencies are certified through the police officer standards and training. So all academies are pretty close in the type of training they do.
Right.
There may be some individual nuances that are, important to Providence or the state police that are a little bit different than the municipal academy.
How long is the academy?
24 weeks.
Well, it is.
So that's 6 months. That's a long time.
Sure is, yeah.
So by the time, a young
Now, do
man...
they stay there or they go every day?
We do not. The Rhode Island State Police have a...
The state police stay there.
They stay there. They stay
24/7.
Yeah, we don't. And we've just changed our training facility. We don't have the capacity to do that, but we've never done that. We've never stayed overnight in our
Right.
academy.
Well, where is it? Where is the training academy?
So right now, our academy is in the old Providence Water Supply Board building. If you face LaSalle Academy...
I was just going to say that.
Right to the left.
Yeah, because I like LaSalle
Right on
Bakery
Academy
over
Avenue.
there.
Right near LaSalle.
I like the bakery over there.
Of course you do.
Who doesn't? Anyway, so they go 24 weeks in the academy. They get out and they go to what you
The
said,
FTO, 10-week program,
10-week program.
and some may be extended.
And then is the probationary period a year after
full
that?
year. So-
After that or a year after they graduate?
A year from the day they raise their hand and
Okay,
get
yeah,
sworn in.
yeah.
And then so, they are technically at-will employees. If we find 6 months in
Right.
that, you know what, this individual isn't going to work out, we've done that, where we've terminated. It's not really a termination. We actually use the verbiage in our notification that
You're not a cop yet.
you're not hired by the Providence Police. Even though you've been working here,
Really?
yes, you're not terminated because
You're not hired.
You're not hired. So but by and large, those who graduate the academy end up finishing their FTO program. They finish their probation, and many go on to have wonderful, rewarding 20-year, 25, 35-year careers.
I know you have number one. Is that number one for all the policemen? Is that the
Yeah,
number
so
one?
we have a federal identification number. So yes, and so in the command staff, you know, we have 1 through 6. So
Okay.
the chief wears badge number 1, and we do something different in the department too. So the most senior police officer on the rank and file, we allow him to wear 1A.
Oh, really? Is that how that works?
So it's a young man, I'll say, a young man who actually came on the job before me, Frank Moody.
Frank Moody.
You know the name?
I do.
Yeah, Frank is a tremendous cop. He's known statewide, and he came on in 1980,
Wow.
and he wears the badge 1A, well deserved.
41 years. Wow.
And there is no one in this state more tactically sound. He trains around the world.
Really? Yeah.
He does. He has a big reputation, but he's done some tremendous work for the Providence Police, and he's back in patrol, has been the last several years, and he loves it.
Yeah.
He's had
Oh,
opportunities.
you gotta love it. He's gotta love it.
He loves it.
He's gotta love it to be doing it
To
all
still
this
do it.
time. Yeah, yeah. Now, do you do anything special during the holidays with the police departments?
We do, and thank you for asking. So, you know, we do so much in the community for community policing, and during this time of year, many people are in need. You know, people are
Yeah.
struggling, not only financially, but with COVID. They don't have the opportunity to go out and get they don't have access to basic needs, whether it be food, Christmas shopping,
right.
Thanksgiving shopping. The Providence Police, with our partners, we were part of handing out thousands and thousands of turkeys. And we went to many of the public housing high-rises and distributed turkeys
Right.
to those in need, full meals, a full Thanksgiving meal, thousands for Thanksgiving.
Now, when you say the whole, they had to cook it, of course, right?
They had to cook it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you put it, you gave it to them. You gave them
We
all,
gave it to 'em.
all the
And
potatoes.
some of our
and the-
friends and partners reach out to the Providence Police, and there's been some valued partners. I'll mention one, Ed Medeiros from East Coast Solutions.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He gave out 3,000. He's from here in East Providence.
Oh, well, yeah.
3,500 in that.
You know why I
this-
remember him?
How do you know him?
You know why I
He's a
remember
great
him?
guy.
I know.
He cares a lot about the community.
Yeah, he does.
But he wanted to partner with the police. In his case, several departments. One was Providence, and they use our motorcycle unit to escort all of those vehicles to distribute those turkeys.
Oh, cool, yeah. Yeah.
But there were so many others, and we did. How do you know Ed?
Well, I know him from the commercials.
Yes.
And his jacket, the first jacket he ever wore, I said, oh my God, why is he wearing that jacket on TV? He changed, since changed. But the first time I ever saw him on TV, he had this weird jacket on.
He's a very
But it
caring
stood out,
man.
which was a good thing. It was actually a good move that he did that.
He gives back so much to the community, and there's so many others that give back. And so not only Thanksgiving, but in Christmas, we've given
Right.
so many toys out to needy families, single parents. Somebody reached out to me the other day personally, and they're in a bad way, and they just they don't have the resources to
Right.
go out and get gifts for their child. And that happens all the time. They reach out to who? Someone they know in the police.
Right.
Can you help me? And we will not, if a family reaches out to us, we will not let them go a Christmas without satisfying the needs of a child and their family. And that's important.
Oh, I know very well. In fact,
So we do a lot in the community.
there were times over the last 24 years that I ran the Toys for Tots, there were officers in your department that would donate boxes of toys to the Toys for Tots.
And their time. And you know, I think it's important and rewarding to the young men and women on the job already. We're seeing with some of the rookies, if you will. You can almost see it on their face when you go to some of these public housing buildings and they're giving back to
Right.
those in the community. It means something because, you know, we're all from the community. We're part of the community.
Yes, yeah. And now New Year's, how do you deal with New Year's?
Another challenge. We have so many challenges, but look, Providence has a huge nightlife. And New Year's Eve, Many of these clubs are open till
Right.
3 in the morning.
Yep.
And with nightclub,
Do they still have 2 o'clock licenses in
yes,
Providence?
2 o'clock. Yep, and they're extended on holidays.
I know that. They extend an hour, right?
So we still do. And Providence has always been and continues to be a very vibrant city. So you have people come from all over southeastern New England to enjoy the nightlife of Providence. So you ask about New Year's Eve. That's a busy night.
I know it is.
And there's
I
a
know
lot
it.
of, so we'll have our regular complement of uniform officers and plainclothes officers, detectives on the cover, but we'll have a lot of details out there too. So establishments that pay for a detail.
Right.
Because
They
they're
check
going to,
IDs and stuff going in.
well,
and
we
out.
don't check IDs, but we work very closely
Right.
with the security. And if, we're mainly used if we needed to break up a fight.
Yep.
Or, they want to throw someone out and they're giving their security force a hard time, then there's a need to show the presence of the uniform, the Providence Police, and if need be, we'll arrest. But a lot of these nightclubs, they have a 2 or 4 or bigger presence of Providence Police, depending on the crowd they're going to have.
Right.
If they're going to have, 500, 800 people at a club, they want the Providence Police there to avoid problems. And a lot of times, by the mere fact that we're there, the presence alone can deter
Sure,
and mitigate
sure.
some activity.
Now, you had a couple nightclubs closed down in the last few months, right?
With our License Enforcement Bureau, we're
Right.
constantly pushing cases to the license board, organization, an entity of the city of Providence that meets out that type of discipline. It's not a right to have a license, a liquor license in the city of Providence and a nightclub license. It's something granted by the city,
Right.
but you're held accountable.
Where it can be given, can be taken away, right?
That's right. And where we find violations, we're constantly pushing cases to the city license board, and we've had a couple recently where we move.
Well, you had one of them was a shooting inside the building.
Shooting, that's incredulous to me.
That's crazy.
Not only do they get it, if you allow a gun in your establishment,
And they had didn't they have a metal detector in the building? So in other words, how did they get a gun in the place?
they get a gun in. And look, once we peel the onion back and do investigations, we find there can be several ways that a knife or gun can get in there. But, and we're not looking to chop people's heads off in the nightlife business.
Right.
However,
Right.
we're all accountable. And we could have a real serious event if a gun, a high-powered weapon gets in a nightclub.
Oh, the same bullet could shoot 2 or 3, 4 people.
Never mind 18 bullets.
Right.
Never mind more than that.
Right, exactly. I always wonder, when I see an establishment going before the board, licensing board, having been in that business years ago, I kind of favor on their side sometimes, especially when the incident happens outside the building, outside their property, because that doesn't necessarily mean it came from their building.
True. And oftentimes they'll use that as an excuse, but I think, again, they can't just have an event where 500 people come, and then as they're leaving, slam the door and say, it's not on us, it's in the parking lot.
Right. No, but if the person came from there, that's a different story. But I'm
Right.
talking about sometimes it has happened
True.
where somebody's walking by the place and they have a shootout in front of the place or a stabbing in front of the place, but it wasn't from that
True.
place.
And we saw that downtown where they were years ago, in the early 2000s.
The old complex, and that right?
There were
Well,
like 20 nightclubs down there.
Oh yeah.
And when there was a brawl or a serious violent crime incident, stabbing or shooting, and oftentimes you don't know which club.
Right.
And it happened in the parking lot.
Right.
But we got a good handle on some of these locations, and we've had our struggles and challenges. But look at downtown now. That whole area has been transformed. It's no longer a nightclub area.
No.
It's now the Knowledge District. Many of those buildings.
We're talking about the what is that?
Brown
Richmond
University,
Street, down there,
Richmond Street, Chestnut,
Yeah.
Dyer, Brown University,
And over near
Johnson and Wales.
the jewelry district, they call
Jewelry
it, right?
District, the Knowledge District. That has
Oh, that's
been
what they call it now, the
transformed.
Knowledge District?
Yes. And it's beautiful with the crossover bridge from the east side to downtown.
Yep.
There was another challenge for us when young men started to
Drive their vehicles over
drive
the
their
bridge.
vehicles over. And but we've had our challenges in many different pockets in the city with nightclubs. We now have the Broad Street detail. So the downtown nightclub detail moved from downtown.
Yeah.
We've had challenges up on Atwells Avenue, Broad Street.
Right.
We've
Different crowds too, different.
All different
that's
crowds.
The Spanish
They're-
crowd over on Broad Street, right? The mixed
different
breed,
type venues. I mean, when I was a district commander, we had, you'd remember, Sanctuary.
The what?
The nightclub was called Sanctuary. We certainly had our share of trouble.
Where was
On
that?
Hartford Avenue.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It was the big warehouse building right before the highway, Route 6. And,
Yep.
so, yeah, I think it's important for the city.
Then over
to-
on Dean Street, over Dean, behind the,
Atwells.
Atwell.
Oh, you mean Spruce? Or
No, there's behind that, what is it, the barbecue place there on the Ribs.
Oh, yes,
There's a couple clubs behind there, weren't
there were, yes.
They're not there anymore?
No, that was an all-night club.
It was
had
an
a-
all-night club?
They had a license till, I believe, 6 a.m.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Over by Wes's Rib House.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, on the back street there.
Yep. But as time goes on, people are held accountable and they move on to a different business venture. There's a lot of, look, we've gotten to know all the business owners in the city, and we work very well with them. And they may change their business platform to something different
Right.
because they don't want the headaches either.
Right.
And they don't want to see people get hurt in their clubs. And it's just
Exactly.
so, look, they get it, and we have meetings all the time with the nightclub owners and security and management, and we try to make it better as a city. You as a nightclub owner, manager, security team, the city, the police department. We want everyone to enjoy the city of Providence, but be safe.
Now, how did you get up in the ranks? How did you go from being a patrolman to a colonel?
So, the first step is detective. If you want to go into detectives, that's a written exam. But the first real promotion is sergeant. And in Providence, we have the rank sergeant, lieutenant, captain, major, deputy chief, chief. And I really was happy when I made sergeant. And then I spent 4 years in patrol. And then I went to detectives and spent...
Did you spend 4 years in patrol on the third shift or the first shift?
I went right to the 3 to 11 shift.
Yeah, because my nephew
I
is
did
a
not
cop
like
in
that third
Pawtucket.
shift. Oh, that's a tough
Oh, the
shift.
third- that's
when I was a
brutal.
lieutenant, when I was a patrolman, and then a lieutenant, I worked that third shift. But on the sergeants, I had an opportunity right off the bat because it's all seniority. I
Right.
went right to the 3 to 11 shift. But
Oh,
I
you
worked
got
the
lucky.
night shift in Car 15, South Providence, and
Well, then you didn't get lucky.
no, I loved it down there.
Did you?
Great community. But the long and short of it, at year 26 on the job, that's before I made chief, I spent exactly half my career in the uniform division,
Right.
13 years, and half my career
As a detective or?
in the investigative side,
Investigative
whether
side.
it was detectives or narcotics. But so I felt like I had a really good background, and I rose through the ranks on each side of the shop. So when you make sergeant, I performed as a sergeant in both the uniform and investigative side. Lieutenant, the same. Captain, the same. So as I climbed the ranks, I love the job. And no matter where you go, this is a great job. And that's why men and women love to come to Providence. There's many opportunities. I mean, I never did it, but you can ride in the mounted command, a horse. You
Oh,
can ride
yeah,
a motorcycle.
yeah.
You can ride a bicycle. You can walk a foot post. So you can be a regular patrol in a car or do one of those many things. You could go to the Violent Crime Task Force
Right.
and chase guns and you know, try to meet out gang activity in the community. You could go to detectives and investigate major crime or white-collar crime. You could go to the Youth Service Bureau and maybe be a school resource officer. And maybe somewhere along the way you decide to go for rank. And then along the way you can go back and forth in those respective units as a sergeant, lieutenant, captain, or so on. But there are so many different units in the Providence Police. And, you know, as an example, a lieutenant, you can be a shift commander, or you could be a district commander and be a mini police chief.
Oh, like you said, yeah.
Like you said, and cover a certain area. And your hell is you go to the community meetings. In those communities, they get to know and adore their district commanders. And every time we go to move one, you know,
you get resistance from the community.
We get resistance from the community. Like, you can't take
Don't take
Lieutenant
him away.
so-and-so, he's the best we ever had.
Yep.
And then when we replace him, they're like, hey, this guy's pretty good too. Or this girl is tremendous. It's like, we have good people and they really fall into their role and enjoy it. And again, it's rewarding work we do within the neighborhoods.
Right, right. Now, when you mentioned gang activity. Now, do we have more problems or as much problems as the rest of the country does with gangs?
Yeah, you know, I've never shied away. We've never shied away from saying that we have a gun issue and at times a gang issue. And we saw that controlled over the last several years. And then in the middle of 2020, we had an uptick in gunplay, no question about it, with the number of shootings we had and then with the amount of seizures we had and arrests of guns. So I wouldn't say that the magnitude is at what other cities are seeing.
Oh, God, no. Thank God it's not.
Thank God it's not, but nonetheless, it is a challenge for us. It is a focus. We will always focus on violent crime and gun activity. And in 2022, we have a couple of interesting things that we're looking at, doing things, expanding and doing things maybe a little bit differently, but it will always be policing in American cities and in Providence in particular, it will always be a comprehensive approach because we know, and it's, you know, it's an adage that we throw out there all the time, but we mean it. With any of the chronic issues that we deal with, we'll never be able to arrest our way out of it.
Right.
Arrest and incarceration, it doesn't work. So it has to be a comprehensive approach, whether it's gang activity, whether it's the opioid crisis, whether it's mental illness. We have to attack these ills in our community in a comprehensive way with our law enforcement partners, with our community partners, with our community leaders, and oftentimes, most importantly, with our social service partners. And really look at data and develop strategy and attack these issues.
Based on that data.
Based on that data, attack these issues in a really smart way. You know, you've heard the terms intelligence-led policing, smart policing. We're doing that. And we've done it for a while, and it works.
Yep. How many mayors have you worked under?
I've worked under 3.
Only 3?
Yes, Angel Tavares.
Yep. Come on. Angel Tavares.
Only 2.
Only 2?
Yeah.
You only worked under 2 mayors?
Yes.
You didn't work under Buddy?
No.
You didn't?
Oh, you mean as chief?
Yeah. No. As you've been in the police department.
No. So you're right. Several mayors. So I did work under Buddy Cianci.
You had to, yeah.
Yeah. Buddy Cianci, Mayor Cicilline, Mayor Tavares,
right?
Mayor Laws, and Mayor Paolino.
I was just going to say that. You almost skipped him. Yep.
No, he's a dear friend of mine.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Good guy.
He's a good guy.
He still does some great work in the city.
I got to
And
get
when
him
I
on
first
this
came
show.
on, all the paperwork for the hiring process for the Providence Police was under Mayor Cianci, but then when I came on, I was sworn in under Mayor Joe Paolino.
Oh, no kidding.
That was one of those points.
Really?
And then,
Well, that was between
Mayor
his first
Cianci
and
came
second.
back.
Yeah, that was between his first and second term.
How did they used to coin that? What did he used to say? Sabbatical.
The sabbatical down in New Jersey, right?
And you know what? They all cared passionately about their city,
Right.
and love their city. And it's important work they do too. It's a difficult job, commanding the city of Providence.
Oh,
It
yeah,
is.
well, you got, what do they say? There's 49 different languages spoken in Providence? Is it 49? Something
I
like that.
believe you're right. Yeah, it's over 40, and there were over 60. I believe it's 64 schools. When you count, I think there's 44 city schools. I
Right,
could
then
be
the
wrong on
charter
that.
schools.
Charter schools,
Private
and then you
schools.
have the Catholic schools.
Right.
64, and then you count, there's 8 colleges and universities.
Exactly. Well, it
This-
is a university town.
This is a
Providence.
university city, no question about
Yep.
it. In all different types of universities. Ivy League, Rhode Island School of Design,
Yep.
2 completely different type schools.
Absolutely.
Culinary school,
Rick,
PC,
yep. And Roger Williams has a
Roger
satellite.
Williams, URI, satellite,
satellite.
CCRI.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a great city. It's a college town, and we have a lot to focus on when there are safety issues in the city and in schools. Recently, that TikTok thing that came out on social media.
oh, yeah, when they're
Threatening
telling
schools.
kids to do the
We
crazy
receive
stuff.
so many calls,
Right.
Both individually as me personally. Some of our friends in the community, they know that, look, when they're scared about something, they may call personally, or they'll call a friend they have in the Providence Police.
Right.
That's how we operate. And look, it was a warm day, and there was one school down the south side that was having their kids go out to play kickball, and they asked if they could have a presence of the Providence Police there because they were concerned with that potential violence.
Right.
And we responded to all those calls for need because, again, it's about keeping the community safe.
That's why it's so much different policing today than it was
It
10
is.
or 20 years ago. How about California when they decriminalized burglary? So
Right.
they're going into stores with
that-
backpacks and emptying shelves.
So disappointing to watch.
It's crazy.
It really is.
Terrible to see.
It's sad to watch.
All right, listen, you just spent an hour with Bob. You know that, right? You
First time.
completed.
First
You
time.
completed an hour with Bob. So I'm going to give you the last word.
Thank you, Bob. It's about time I get on your show.
It is.
And I think you got me on at the appropriate time, the holiday season. So to you, your family, or your listeners, I love this time of year. Happy holiday season. Merry Christmas. Wish you nothing but the best.
And to you also. And
Thank you.
folks, thank you for spending an hour with Bob and watching me and the chief and the colonel of the Providence Police
Got it
Department.
right.
I got it both, right?
You did.
Now, what do you prefer, chief or the
Either way. I'm low
colonel?
maintenance.
Colonel or chief?
Colonel Hugh Clements, Chief of Police. I'm fine either way.
Colonel.
Call me Hugh.
You. Well, I can call you you.
Yes.
Colonel or chief. Anyway, folks, thank you for spending an hour with Bob, and I'll probably see you after the new year. Until then, see you in 2022.